you can either like it or not, but at this point it's also like a bit of a survival thing to learn to adapt and to see where this is going.
This is Sofia. From art history to leading AI growth, she's proving that reinvention is an art in itself. I'm Mika, and this is It's a Vibe. You are an AI growth manager at Freepik, right? Everyone knows Freepik. I've used it. My designer friends, everyone loves it. And you've actually led the full pivot from traditional stock assets to AI first products. Can you walk me a little bit through what that transformation really demands? Like from team, culture, mindset, and everything.
Yeah, well, first, thank you for having me. Super happy also to have this chat and to say that I have led the whole pivot in these big words. It's been definitely like a whole company kind of effort. It's been not only shifting the mentality, but shifting our everyday task, how we perceive the company, how we perceive even the mere task of working, how it also has changed in the creativity and creators kind of spaces. So I always like to say that there was this kind of starting point almost not even 3 years ago, but more or less, when our CEO, which is Joaquin Cuenca, he said that he was very sick with COVID. He was, having like this fever, kind of high fevers and dreams and everything. And it was when the avocado chair by Dali happened. So he said that he was like, I don't know if it was the fever, the avocado chair, what was it? But I was like, oh my God, like, this is going to change everything. Like, this is going to change the industry. This is going to change the way stock assets, visuals, creativity, creation itself as an act is going to change. And we have to do something about it. So that was something that kind of rippled back into the company, into how we were doing things. And I was lucky enough that at the very beginning that it was in the more experimental kind of team that we had, which is still at this day at Freepik, but it's the labs team, which is, the kind of I+D, as they say in Spanish, like investigation and testing things. And we were kind of taking baby steps with text to image back in the day, with prompt, approaching this kind of prompt engineer thing that was happening at first. And the more technology kept being developed, we were implementing it. So it was something that was happening in part of the company, and everybody was kind of, these guys are doing crazy things. What's happening? Like, what's the scale that this is going to get? And eventually, it kept on growing, and we were having more tools and more tools and more launches happening around AI. And everybody in the company was sort of embracing it. I remember very clearly that one of the very first big launches that we did was of a tool that used to be called Picasso, which was a sketch to image. So it was this multimodal tool that you could draw and doodle and do terrible drawings, because you could do like prompting and balance it out. So the result would be amazing.
Yeah, I actually used that a couple of years ago.
Like, yeah, it was super nice. I remember that we even went to schools and kids were like doodling, and they were like, you could doodle like crazy things and then type a horse and you would get like an amazing horse. And they were like, I'm a great sketcher. So everybody kind of started playing out with it, and it got to the point that we saw like that was the direction, and that was like the skills to be developed. And it would be unfair to say that there weren't any ugly conversations as well, because I was also looking forward to them. It was like, not everybody's gonna open their hands, this is happening, sure, amazing. There were ugly conversations. There were people who were like, why should I wanted this? I also have feelings about this. Like, people that used to be and still are traditional artists in like the more traditional sense of it, like illustrators and photographer, photo composition folks. So we also embrace these conversations. It was like, it's not that you cannot do that. It's this also is now a new medium. And the sooner that you embrace it, like, with the set of skills that you have and the background that you have, you're going to be top of it. It's like, if you have these great insights. One of the great examples that I always keep talking is Melissa, who is now one of our creative directors, AI creative directors at the company, that started as a photographer and as a photo retoucher. And because of the way that she sees the world and knows how to compose everything, when you gave her, I remember in the very, very early days, Midjourney V2, V3, she was doing insane things. So it was like, it's not this black box magical thing that happens when you type anything and anything amazing happens. But if you're an amazing person behind the tool, is when you're going to get these amazing results. And we're a company of almost 400 employees. a bunch of them are creators and creatives. So when they've started doing this and embracing this, the results, the quality that we get, and also the time in the time kind of stamps in where we get this content done is outstanding.
I mean, there's so much to unpack in what you just said. First, starting with your CEO's high fever that translated into all of this. I mean, that's amazing and a great story. But like unpacking a little bit into what you said, like creativity, skills to be developed, um, adoption. There's a lot of things to touch there, right? So I'm sure like your role, even like you were saying, has been reinvented throughout the years.
Yeah.
Everyone's role actually has been reinvented over the years, especially right now with all of these advancements. So talking a little bit about skills and adoption that you said, like which profiles do you think are the best equipped to thrive in this new era of AI?
That is a very interesting question, because every day I get like more confident of the fact that there's no specific role or like a kind of working set of skills that will make you survive, but rather the skills that you have. Because I always say that the people who are more driven towards being curious, towards being more like autodidacts, like learning on your own, like no matter like the set of skills that you manage, or if you're from like a humanities kind of background or a more tech background, if you have the skills to kind of reinvent yourself, that is definitely like the killer combo when it comes to AI, because now we have tools that you can text and get whole websites. So in no time they're gonna be like an audio and you're gonna get a whole website. So if you are the person that has that kind of invest the time in learning that, it's gonna happen. And like, I always say that when I got first into AI, like I was familiar with it, I was like kind of aware of what was happening, but my background comes from like a very classical, so to say, approach, like art history, like the academia, more like a research approach, like scientific communication. um and I joined the company as like a copywriter, because I used to do work as a copywriter for like this social media approach as well. And I remember that I always said that I got into AI as a survival skill, because I remember thinking, this GPT thing that was happening very, very early on in the times of Dali Mini and everything. And I was like, if this thing is going to write the type of text that I'm writing, because I used to do like a lot of SEO positioning kind of blog posts and templates of metadata, that kind of thing that now feels archaic, that there was a person doing it behind the screen. It was like, if this is going to happen because this tool is going to do that, what can I do with this tool? And I remember that one of the very first thought that I had was, if this tool is going to make me do 10x of the work, that is definitely going to make me a more valuable person when it comes, to the production itself, not other values. But like, if I can do now 4, 10, 15 blog posts in one morning, with traditionally I used to do like 1.5, 2, there's definitely going to be value in the human behind that. No, and that is something that I remember back in the team that it was one of the values that I wanted to give to the rest of them. It's like, if you can either like it or not, but at this point it's also like a bit of a survival thing, to learn, to adapt, and to see where this is going.
As a manager, that is so important. And actually, I would love to talk and like go into that point, because like you said something about like people reinventing themselves, right? Because it is true, you have to reinvent yourself for what's coming. You need to be open-minded, like you said, to gain new skills. And I'm wondering, like, as a manager, from your point of view, what have you learned about like keeping people motivated? You talked about tools, right? Like keeping people motivated behind those tools, and also like grounded through super big transformations.
It's something like hard. Not gonna lie about it, because precisely, I think it's been even harder when it comes to like the creativity side of it, and also like showing somebody who is like from a traditional marketing background that you can use now, GPT, and you can have your custom GPT and it's gonna reply to all your emails, because you can, have that, just sometimes I felt that leading by example, it's like, no, but I have this and I've done this, and if you want, I can help you like write a custom prompt for your custom GPT, and then you're gonna be super fast with this. No, that was something that happened cross team. So I felt that having that like very blunt example of, I'm doing this with this, like there's, we're not gonna demonize this or pretend that we're writing, with a pen and pencil. That was something that I felt people kept doing, and they were, this kind of fear of being a newbie asking for things was completely demolished. Because I remember when we had these kind of all hands meetings, we were like, if you have questions, like drop them, don't worry, like this is new for everybody. The main difference can be that I've spent a few more afternoons researching this and testing, and you haven't because of whatever, but I'm happy to show you. And I remember that we've had plenty of workshops, things like that. Every time a very example that comes to mind was when the technology of the LoRa's started happening. I always refer to them as these like tiny models glued to the big foundational models that allowed you to do like very specific things like styles, characters, or objects. And I remember that it got to the point in a meeting when he was like, guys, if none of you are like super crystal clear on what a LoRa is the moment to raise your hands. Like, we're going to show you, it's going to be like a class. That's cool. It's like, it's okay. We're here to learn. We're familiar with it because we've been using it. So I think that having that very transparent, like there's no silly questions. There's nothing wrong in not knowing about the technology part of it and understanding how it belongs in your product. Made it very easy, I think, to have like this. I remember there was a point with my Slack was just people like, I saw that you said this in a meeting. Like, do you have any resource or anything that I can learn or any course that I should take? Like things like that. And it was also happy to help. And with the creativity side of it, what was a bit trickier, because sometimes you will get people like having the advantage of being familiar in their maybe in their life outside of Freepik, so to say, with tools, with their specific tools or processes. So you could see that some people were very kind of experts in a way with prompting, and they were getting like very cool results with things, and people who had like zero knowledge on that. Not so like leverage that was a bit harder, I think, but they saw that with very little input in terms of compared to the background that they had as professionals in that industry, they were getting amazing results. And nowadays, I can put my hand in the fire on this. Probably the best of the best visuals and results that I've seen are from this, like from the team, the internal team that we have at Freepik, which have made me really had this issue of like, this is a picture. Like, there's not a single way that this is AI. Like, going zooming it every single thing, and it's like, nope, I've done it with Dream and Magnific this morning, and I have the rest of the images here in the generator. It's like, oh my god, like people don't really, I don't think that they know how far advanced we are in the state of the art when it comes to visuals as how we do now in the house with the creatives that we have.
Let me tell you, like, I love how you talk about your team. I understand so much, like, being in awe of your team, because I'm head of design at TDP. You know this. We chatted about this. I lead a lot of product designers, brand designers, and there is nothing like seeing the skill, but also like the talent, the creativity that your team can have, leaving them the opportunity to experiment, like you were saying, to be like open-minded and like to ask when they don't understand something. Like that kind of management, I think for me is super important, especially in like ambiguity times, right?
I think that when the whole panorama, no, or like the environment is so ever changing, and you haven't really grasped about this new technology, and surprise, there's this new paper coming out which points out that there's now going to be this different thing, no. And we're talking maybe sometimes just about images, but then you have video, and then you also have audio, and then you also have text, and then you have multimodals, so like the combinations are so ever changing. But I fully agree with you. I think that there's at least on my end, I've been lucky that I've had like great people. I think not because I'm at Freepik, but like the staff that we have here, like everybody's is super amazing. I don't know if it gets in the mic, but they're playing ping pong outside right now. So like that's something that's happening in the office.
I cannot hear anything,
Because
but I love the spirit. I wish I could see that from here.
yeah, they're having like these games afternoons here at the office. And I'm super lucky to have seen like the progression, like people who nowadays make videos that are like so amazing. Like Jesus, which is part of my team, he's like putting out this content on LinkedIn that is brilliant. And people will just contact him like, are you really doing these things with AI? And he's like, yeah, I'm doing that with Freepik, and it's like so easy to make them. I realized like, oh my god, like for you this is easy and it feels like you filmed this, it's not even like it's done with AI. And seeing his progression and getting like they're getting invited to events and they feel like they're referenced and that they are like an icons of this new revolution is like super satisfactory.
Looking at things that feel like art, really, like you were saying. And actually, like talking about art, I there's something super interesting about you. You have a background in art history. Does all of this change, like all of this AI era, change your perception about what art has become today?
It's very interesting. I'm always excited to kind of see it from the two perspective, like the very kind of, let's call it Silicon Valley perspective, and then from the art historian kind of perspective. Being super honest, I still don't really have my feelings super clear in it. No, I think that there's lots of ethical implications with AI art that are still pending to see, how they will develop down the road, precisely from the European also standpoint. But I do agree that is very, very similar to the whole photography kind of revolution. At the very beginning, cameras were the devil. They'll steal your soul. Oh my God, no, we don't want anything to do with that. They're super expensive. They're blah blah blah. It kept changing. It kept shifting the view that people had of them, and then it got to the point where they were like super normalized. And I really like this feeling of like nowadays you and I, we have a camera. We have a camera with us at all times, but not every single one of us has a photography exhibition at the moment. So there's still something there that because everybody has a camera, and I have like a bazillion pictures of my dog, and I really like kind of photography, but I know that I'm not there, and I maybe don't have the discourse or the things or the story to share to make it worthy of being like out there for people to enjoy. Doesn't mean that the medium is not valid for that. So I think that with AI, there's plenty of ways to also. I really like one critique which is called Eric Salvaggio and his take on it. Like he loves working with AI and he'll be training his own projects. I wouldn't put my hand on the fire like the processes that he had, but I know that he works with it. But he's also very critical of other approaches, no? So like I think that's the sweet spot, and then there's plenty to explore there with art in the coming years.
For sure. And also thinking about something you said, which is like we all have a camera, but we don't know a photography exhibition, which is absolutely true. And I think that now with the enablement of so many tools out there, like and this is something I keep like bringing up, creativity, ideas, like the skills behind those tools are so important because like you were saying, it doesn't matter if you have a camera, you're not like a full photographer, right? So that is super interesting too. You brought the subject, like how does AI shape the way you think about ethics today? Like how has that changed?
Wow, that's a lot to unpack. And I'm also talking here with my perspective, like my person, nothing company related. But I feel that sometimes where the path is super fast, um, we're not really taking the time to reflect upon what's happening. I think that's something that in the tech world is kind of the momentum. If you discover this, let's ship this, let's make this happen, let's make this available. It makes sense for the type of industry. But I think that there's lots of things that really need like time to kind of stop, think. I'm really a big fan of this thinking kind of approach that's been brewing, which is called slow AI, which is like, we're happy with AI, but, let's take some time to reflect, especially I think about data sets, and I think that is something that is key in the coming years, how we going to be approaching this, what's the future looks like for the people who are still, putting on their own original content. Are you going to be able to opt out? Are you going to be available to, how are you going to be working around that? And also, if we're going to keep on feeding the machine and just generating that, is it going to get to the point where if there's no original content involved, we're just going to be producing, super low quality things? No, that is also one of my concerns, so to say. I think that we're still at the very verge of the what Eric calls the age of noise. We're beyond the age of information, and yeah, it's definitely the age of noise. Everything is gonna be like a lot of mediocre kind of content. I always joke around about I don't want to see any more cyberpunkish plastic kind of AI art or whatever, because it's like a, scene one, scene everything. There's so much more that can be done with AI. But I think that because of the curving, the learning curve of it, it's not going to be that common to see that. So yeah, I thinking that the next few years are going to be key in, how AI is going to, also from the sustainability point of view. I think it's also very interesting. How are we going to make it sure that it's not something, that is very conscious, that is very conscious with the planet and then with everything. But at the same time, how are we going to make sure that it adds value and it's not something that we're using to generate like whatever thing comes to mind. No? So I think that is a tool that in the right hands, with the right training, with everything behind it, it's going to be amazing. It's going to give the opportunity for so many people who maybe didn't have the opportunity. I've always said this, like I've generated visuals that I could have never, like I don't have like that artistic kind of background or with visuals, and I remember just my last holidays with my parents, I was doing like silly kind of montage of them and like whatever things were happening, and like my mother was crazy about it. So it was like, this is the kind of also very playful and nice thing to happen with it. So like with where you're doing it with like a sensible approach and like conscious and within the limits of what you are allowing it to know and not and behave. I think it's a great tool.
I mean, everything is super experimental right now. And with that also, like internal teams have, again, like so much freedom and so much power to do so many things, but also like we understand, like, because I work for a product, you, of course, like Freepik is a huge product. There are like features, like we need to do our jobs, and there are features like besides the art and everything, which is super experimental, we have our jobs to do, right? So like I understand that your team ships things pretty quickly. I've seen like a lot of features coming up. How do you and your team, of course, like balance perfect versus done when everyone is expecting more and more and more, especially because you guys are like enabling everyone to like, hey, look at all of those features that we're giving. Like, how are you balancing that when users are watching?
That is also like one of the biggest, like the golden kind of question of the year, the $1 million question. So I would also mention that we have like the labs team, the current labs team, which are the developers. So they're the guys who will wake up on a Monday and be like, what, we're launching this today, this in 3 hours, and this tomorrow, because like they're insane, they're amazing, they're great engineers, and they'll have this path of shipping fast and then iterating afterwards, rather than having this thing happening and brewing for 1 month internally. And the times and the processes have really changed. And when it comes to the side where like the product marketing social approach, it's also been like an understanding that the times have changed, and what normally a campaign could take 3-4 weeks, a month, depending. It can now be done in like 3 days, Labor Days. So it will be like on Monday, that on Thursday this thing is coming out, and we need to have like a full campaign. So now we know that visuals can be done faster, because we're gonna gonna generate them with our tools, and we know that the copies we're gonna be doing some maybe testing, and we're gonna get them, and we know the message, and we know everything, and we're gonna set it up. And we work a lot with content creators, so we know that they're familiar with these tools, and then how to generate the content that works best for them. So it's like I think that we're at the stage that we're living in the sprint, because it's like what the technology is putting out there. So it's been kind of a bit of a path at the very beginning. At first it was like, we cannot do this in 1 week, and then it was like, no, in 4 days it's impossible. No, in 3 days I don't know if we're gonna manage. It's like the times kept getting shorter and shorter, and there's been days where I'm not even joking, it has been like 24 hours to get a full campaign out, because we got the tip that this was going to happen. We set it out, we implement it, we get everything out, and we go live, and it's a massive success. And part of the community is always mentioning us, like, when do you guys sleep? Like, when are you getting, like, and we will get it eventually, but right now we keep on iterating and delivering.
That's crazy. I mean, I understand. I work with US startups, and I know about like working fast and working good. And actually that makes me think, I'm from Argentina originally. I recently moved to Spain. And I know regulations here are changing from a European perspective, because you're Spanish, how does operating under European AI regulations affect your day-to-day decisions? Because compared to your US competitors, I feel like those products are different in terms of regulations, right?
Yeah, I would say, being super honest, I wouldn't say that it's like a super big stopper on the day to day, but I think that we are feeling them in kind of a way bigger scale. Like, I think one of the greatest examples was the Apple Intelligence. I think it got to Spain like a few months afterwards. I think that something similar happened with OpenAI and their voice mode. I think that it took like a few more months to happen. But on the day to day that we're working and implementing, it's really not a big that big of a stopper. And actually, one great example, I think it was with VO3 that we were launch partners with Google, and we were offering it in our platform, because our platform is like worldwide available. You can be anywhere in the planet and you can access Freepik. We opened the door to many countries that weren't able to use VO3 on Google's native platform, because I think it was only for US like users and everything, that they were like sending us messages like, is this for real? Like, I can use the model in Freepik, like, because I live in India or wherever. And it's like, no, yeah, you can access it. It's right there. Actually, I think that day we kind of, not sure if I can share it, but I think I'll do like, we almost like, brought Google down because of that. And they were like, you guys, okay, calm down. Like, everybody's going on Freepik to test this model. So yeah, it was a hectic afternoon, gotta say.
Wow, I bet. How many users do you guys have right now?
I'll have to get the latest data, but I think it was almost 600,000, 400,000 paying subscribers.
That was why I was asking also about like speed in feature implementation, because I bet like you have so many users watching and expecting cool things from Freepik, especially if you're like enabling so many tools and like models and everything. That's amazing. Game changer for a lot of people.
Sometimes it's even crazier. We have like this super big community on Discord, and they'll be like, Monday morning, guys, if only you had this X model available. And we're like, he doesn't know, but it's gonna come up tomorrow. Have you checked? Like, it's live now. They were like, this is insane. Like, guys, how do you do that? So sometimes we have like this back and forth when they'll be like, you know, this is insane. Like, I know that the moment I put it out, like, it's gonna be like, okay, noted. We'll have it ASAP.
I mean, that is the biggest advantage of actually knowing your target user, like your actual customer.
Definitely. And as I also think that we have like a very beautiful relationship with the users. And sometimes just like we'll get asked through many platforms. Like, for example, I get pinged a lot on Twitter, and they'll be like, oh my god, I have to tell you that, when I'm using video, there's this thing that I'm keep testing and it doesn't work, or whatever, or my prompts are like not whatever, no, like these kind of things that just happen to happen on the user's endpoint. And I'm like, hold up, because I'm gonna ping the CPO and we're gonna talk with him, and they're getting them on a meet with the CPO, and they'll be like, you guys are listening to me, and like the product is better because I told you this. Like, the value that we get from that, also because it's super useful for us, is like, we really want to
Of
use that
course.
for day-to-day things. But for them, feeling heard on that level, and when we change something because somebody on Discord reported whatever, they'd be like, oh my god, you did this, guys, like, I'm super happy about this. So it's like, yeah, no, of course, we're here for that.
That's amazing. That you have like such good relationships. Again, like you know them, but you have great relationships, and absolutely makes a complete difference. As I told you, work with products a lot, and like that really makes a difference. And Sofia, what misconception do you think people have about AI that you wish that they could let go?
Oh, that's a great question. Because I feel like there's uh, I would say that there's a lot of kind of unjustified hate just because of the sake of AI, and AI is bad. And then it's like, but AI is making lots of progress in how do you say, in protein kind of research. Google has like amazing projects with medicine approaches, with like curing diseases, like that kind of thing. That just like the compute that AI allows for this type of tasks is amazing. So I wouldn't say that AI is bad. Just like AI is a lot of things, and it happens to be like it's also good at generating images and synthesizing images, audios, and videos. And now like we don't like that. Understandable, I agree with that, but like putting everything in the same box is like completely unjustified. And I will always have this discourse with people, which is like, yeah, you can have your it's just like the aggressive of, no, I don't want to hear everything, and if this has AI in whatever shape or form, is like, no. And as a copywriter, is like, of course I always gonna be prioritizing what I write, but I'm using a computer. Like there's a step of technology involved there. It's not written by hand, and I don't think that because of that is worse. So these people who are like, oh, if this has some GPT on it, like I don't want to know anything about it. It's like, there has to be some flexibility, So I feel like there's either people completely idolizing it and adoring it, that AI is the best thing ever, and it's like, as they say in
There
Spanish,
can be a middle ground for
exactly, not
sure.
black, not white. It's like it's a gray middle area. And so yeah, I would rather just for people to kind of be capable of like meeting in the middle. And I think that a lot of people are just simply believing what they're hearing and not really putting in the time for the research. Is like, okay, you can still not like this, but are you completely confident with the arguments, or like the sentences and whatever, like the context that you have to have that opinion? Because I find myself, maybe it's because of the arts and humanities background, I tend to go to the sources and get informed. And I was like, okay, why is this happening? Why are we feeling like this? What is the argument? Why is all the fuss coming on? So yeah, I think I would rather have people meeting in the middle ground and being open to the debate for that.
Yeah, that's super interesting, and something that you said. I definitely agree. Like, I feel sometimes like fear is rooted in the unknown. So like communicating and really diving deep into what everything means, and like specifically with AI, like you were saying, we have a lot of health tech customers. They are doing groundbreaking things. It's amazing, and like luckily we're helping them. And I mean, the advancements of technology are insane, and I understand that, again, like not knowing can trigger some kind of like, yeah, let's call it fear maybe. But yeah, I completely understand. That's why like you were saying, it's so important to get informed.
Definitely. And I think that also we're in the verge of being very aware of, if I'm choosing to believe this, how much do I know that I can believe this? No, I think that there's a part of AI which obviously presents some new dangers. I wouldn't be like oblivious to that. No, precisely with like voice cloning, that type of thing. I think we also had like, I think it was on the press within our company itself that we had like this, somebody got a call from the CEO, but it wasn't the CEO, it was somebody using his voice to kind of get something. No, so yeah, I think that we are, maybe it's a bit bittersweet, but I think that we're also getting to a point that we have to be more skeptical of everything. I think we're moving towards everything is false until proven that it's right, rather than the other way around. If I see these super cute puppies doing whatever on Instagram, it's like, are they real puppies? So like we're getting to that kind of point. Or if I'm seeing somebody talking about whatever, it's like, ooh, the lips are moving weird, maybe this is you know so yeah, also being very aware of that. I think that rather than jumping into the, no, I don't want to know about this, and then you're consuming content that you're not super familiar, but is that content. I think that's also like a very interesting take in the coming years from like the educational approach, even just from primary school or whatever, to also be very conscious, like
100%.
that is happening. We'll see.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for older people, for like really young children, that's dangerous. So like again, everyone has to be extremely aware. Everyone has to like get some knowledge about it. And what you said about like content ingestion, it's I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, we really have to move, like as individuals, but as well as a society, and as a community, even about the people that we have around that noise. Like, be very self-conscious of what you consume, because also I don't know, I have like this feeling. I spoke about this the other day with, I don't know why, but I like we're gonna be shifting towards the analog again. Like I feel like there's gonna be this big comeback of, my personal take is that magazines are gonna be back. People are gonna love having a magazine and opening it and reading it rather than scrolling and seeing it, or like analog photography with, like, is also making a big comeback, and vinyls and everything. No, so I think that if we get to this point of content saturation of everything, where it's gonna be like, I'm just consuming this. There's either you as creator are either providing of something of interest, and you're differentiating yourself from that and putting out more time, more storytelling, whatever, uh, or people are gonna be shifting also towards that. I think that there's gonna be like, this boomerang effect. Everybody's gonna go crazy with faceless AI channels. What's the long term for that? What are we going to consume as a society? What's the value in that? No?
That's interesting. Artists trying to create pictures and videos and everything, trying to bring it back to something tangible, something like that looks extremely real. Because nowadays, everything, like you were saying at the beginning, like everything is like very, how do you say, like very, yeah, very fake.
Like,
Everything is fake right now. So like I understand and I appreciate the need for real, for connections, and honestly I do feel like that is a big differentiator for everything that you do, like connections being real.
the moment that you add value in any way, um, shape or form out there, which is something that differentiates from the rest. Because I think that there's also, even in the field of AI, I think that there are great creators adding value beyond that. I think one example that is, we have a great relationship with him is this guy called Roberto Nixon on Instagram. I've had the pleasure of meeting him a couple of times, and he's just like this brilliant storyteller. And you're talking with him, and he knows how to craft a story and how to communicate and how to settle up everything. So it's like, I feel like he's somebody, like, doesn't matter what he's gonna tell you, like the way that he's gonna find a way to add value and to tell you something that is gonna leave something after you've watched that is like, to me that's the absolute difference. No, so I think that if we're going that way, and AI is helpful on that end, just, I don't know, settle up videos and help with subtitles and that kind of things. Also, we haven't covered this, but when it comes to languages and everything, like, AI is extremely helpful with that as well, and I think that is going to break down a lot of barriers as well. It has ups and downs, but it's something that would have guessed that I could have had like a in real time conversation with GPT, and then one end is in Chinese and the other one is in Spanish. It's like, it's mind blowing.
I mean, I could talk about conversational features and what everything means around that. I could stay for hours, I think, but I really think that conversational features and like conversational models are the next thing for sure. And I've recently seen some products actually migrating to conversational, especially in health. So I mean, we can revisit this episode in the future and let's see if we are right about all of the assumptions that we just did. But yeah, that's super interesting. What do you think is something that AI could never replace or replicate about you?
About me, oh, I don't know. I don't consider myself like that unreplicable by AI. I don't know. At the end of the day, I think that it's something that is deeply rooted in AI. That is, so something deeply rooted in AI that is not happening, which would be like the need to constantly learn more. I think that you have your data set and your training progress and process, and it happened in this time. And then maybe you can go into the internet and read and get some more things. But at the end of the day, is like, this thing of like, I really want to know about this, and I really want to know more about that. And there's this sentence that I keep on bubbling all the time, but I really like. That is that in the age of the internet, hold on, because I know the sentence in Spanish and I'm going to try and translate it. En la era de Internet no hay una excusa para que una duda siempre se convierta en conocimiento. So it's like there's not an excuse in the internet era to get any doubt turned into content. Learning.
We can use AI to translate.
Yeah, it's fine. So I keep being like amazed by that maybe I'm just having like drinks with my friends and something comes up and it's like, I have no clue what that is. You know what? I have my phone here. Like, this can be something that I've just learned. It's like the whole thing of every single day I'm learning a new thing. Like, which is something very human. I think, at least myself, I consider very like that. AI is a tool that can help me with that, but it's not something inherent to it. Like the whole keep on learning. If I've learned that, I'm good at this, and that's it. Call it a day. It's like a dog learning tricks, so to say. No, they're not gonna be looking forward to learning more tricks, but the ones they don't like, they're happy with that. Um, so yeah, I think that would be something completely irreplaceable, and that's good for us humans. We're gonna keep on being curious. We're gonna keep being completely unpredictable. So yeah, I think AI is not gonna get there. Like, not even with AGI. I think that like that's a completely different conversation, but it's not gonna get there. Yeah.
No, for sure. And I mean, the exponential curve of learning is out of this world. One time it was, I would say there's nothing I don't Google, but there's nothing that I don't chat GPT. It's like any idea, anything. It's like, okay, I want to learn about this. I want to know a little bit more about this. I have this question, chat GPT. There's no excuse now to not know.
Definitely. And I had also one like crazy example, because I don't know, next year in summer in Spain there's going to be like this eclipse that is going to be like a once in a lifetime eclipse. Like, it's going to
I
be
didn't know that.
oh
That's
yeah,
amazing.
12th of August is going to be like a massive solar eclipse in Spain, which is like kind of a once in a lifetime thing. And I remember, and I was working on Claude, and I was like, Claude, I want to know like the best town in Spain to see these, because I'm not very familiar with like the north of Spain. So tell me the best one. This town, okay, like, does it have a lot of trees? Like, does it have like a high point that I can see the eclipse for longer? And I had this back and forth with Claude that ended up being like, I have the perfect town for you, is whatever this town is called, and at this time you had to be at this place, and I'm getting you the coordinates and everything. So he was like, that is something I could have done, like, map and pencil, and like figuring out the way. But I feel like it was something like, wow, this is like amazing. And because of this tool, I'm gonna be able to enjoy this thing. That even the tool itself, I remember Claude was telling me like, please be sure that you head to like this point, because if not, you're gonna have like a not so good experience, because the eclipse is not gonna be as impactful as like whatever, no. So yeah, I keep being amazed by those things. But in the end, it's like, what you bring to that is like, I really want to get like, what's the best spot for the eclipse in Spain. So yeah, like millions of things like that are interesting.
I need to get the name of that spot. Maybe you can share it here or
Yeah.
privately, so we don't fill it with people. Thank you so much, Sofia, for sitting with me today and discussing everything. It was really insightful to learn more about you in general and your path, your ideas. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I also had like a wonderful chat. Looking forward, if it eventually happens a second time around, whenever AI has like completely overcome our predictions and everything, to sit down and wonder back. But yeah, thank you
For sure. We need to come back to review our predictions. That's for sure. Thank you so much, Sofia.
Thank you.